All right, guys, so we're back from Troy's. That part of the build is over. Here's the crossover he built me. There's all the components, his custom hand wound copper coils. And if you look on the back here, he's got kind of a circuit board underneath. Very cool. Now I'm just deciding if I mount this inside of the cabinet or if I build custom boxes with a plexiglass cover and mount it on the back. Still haven't decided that yet. Also haven't decided what I'm doing with these two holes. I do have these super tweeters that are Fostex that I could put a super tweeter in each. And then I'm thinking I could block that one off, put a JBL emblem on there with the nameplate. Also, speaking of names, kind of came up with one. I'm thinking JBL 2025 Ti because originally they're 250 Ti's, but I'm building these in the year 2025. So I'm thinking JBL 2025 Ti. If you like that idea, comment yes or no down below. If you have any other ideas, feel free to share for as far as naming goes. And if you think I should put this super tweeter in here or not. Obviously, I'd love to have a JBL 075 bullet tweeter, but they're like $750 a pair. So unless I find a pair for cheap, might just stick with this guy for now. But yeah, I mean, crossover's done, cabinet modification's done. So I got to clean these buckets up, coat them in some rubber, get everything finalized. Lots of cabinetry work, got to sand, fill, get them ready for paint, fit the crossovers, and then go into paint. Got a little crack here when we were mounting the tweeters at Troy's. So filled that with some wood glue and some putty. Gonna have to sand that again. I also filled the holes on this one. Tweeter wasn't quite perfectly centered. It was off a little bit. So filled that with some wood glue and marine epoxy putty. And we'll have to re-drill those. All right, guys, and we're back at the shop. It's the next day. Got all the drivers pulled. Just fixing the crack that happened there. It's gonna have to put a little bit of Bondo there. And I'm gonna fill all these screw holes on both the speakers. Remount the tweeter a little straighter this time. And fill any other imperfections on the cabinet. I think I got to do this one, a little bit more work on this scratch that was here, a little bit more Bondo in there, and yeah, just do some more filling. I'll update you when I'm done that. All right, all the Bondo filling's done. All those holes are filled, cleaned up the crack there, and put another layer in that big scratch. Re-drilled the holes for the tweeter and filled the holes there. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is these buckets, which are acting as the driver's separate chambers, because this is plastic, I don't want it to get brittle. So I'm actually gonna pour a liquid rubber resin, just a thin film, to coat it. And so the wire won't, eventually pull on that or crack, and just prevent this plastic from ever getting brittle, but also kind of insulating it a bit so it doesn't sound as tinny. Of course, I'll have insulation there as well, but just a thin coat of rubber resin. It's a 2-part urethane, so I'll mix that up, pour that in there, and I'll show you guys when I'm done. All right. So there's the resin. Just coated the bucket in it. That will kick off in about half hour, and that'll give it a nice protected coat, making it a bit better sonically and also preventing the plastic from cracking over time, giving it a extra flexible but sturdy layer. So yeah, I'll do that to the other one now, and that's done. Right, and while I was at it mixing resins, while that cures, I thought I'd fill one of the binding post holes, because I'm only going to be using two. I'm going to be using this for the main speakers, and then I'll have a set of binding posts there for the super tweeter going in there. But I won't need the third one, so I just put some tape on the back and poured a little bit of liquid plastic in there. So that'll kick off in about 20 minutes. I'll show you what resins I'm using here in case you're curious. Made by Smooth On. The rubber is called KX Flex 60. That's what I coated the buckets in. And I used 65D, which is also a Smooth On urethane plastic. That's what I filled the binding post hole with. And yeah, I have access to all these because I work in film as a props builder, and that's what we use to make fake rubber guns and plastic stunt props and whatnot. So yeah, that should work good. All right, so the resin's kicking. So that's done for the day. The last thing I'm doing here is the super tweeter, so that'll fill that hole. And then I've just made this plate like that. Let's see. Just like that. So I'm gonna get that made out of aluminum. That'll cover the bottom hole, and I'll have probably either a potentiometer or an on and off switch so I can turn the super tweeter on and off. And then down below the switch, I'll have the plate, the name plate. So I'll probably either get this piece of aluminum engraved, and yeah, so that'll be the nameplate and the plate that will cover the bottom hole. All right guys, back at the shop the next day. Resin's nice and cured. I'm gonna make a brace for the front here. There's bracing that goes up the side, around the bottom, and the top, but there's nothing bracing this front panel other than down there. So I cut this and a brace right there. I drew a line, so I'm gonna cut. I've already kind of done it on this one here. So you can see that lines up like that, and I'll glue that to here. And I used a thin but wide piece of pine. I don't want to take up too much space in here because this cabinet's already quite limited for space for a 15-inch woofer. So this should be fine. Just keep the cabinet from flexing at all in the front, and hopefully that'll do the trick. So I'm gonna cut the other one and glue them in. All right, so yeah, got them cut. Just gonna get some wood glue, paint on there, and just 2 wood screws on each, obviously from the back. That should keep it in place, keep it nice and strong. All right, those are installed. Now I'm just gonna get some sandpaper and then just round the hard edges a little bit around all the holes for the drivers. All right, so I've rounded all the edges, and then I've also drilled the hole out for the wires. I already had the holes drilled in the little buckets, but just had to drill through the resin I poured yesterday. So that's all ready for the wires. Now I'm going to fit the super tweeter, and then after that, I should be good for paint. We shall see. All right, so I got the super tweeter and the plate fit. It's gonna be like that. Super tweeter sits nice in there. And then I'll get this plate made out of aluminum, as I said, and probably gonna have either a potentiometer or a toggle switch there, and then engraved in the aluminum I'll have the name of the speaker. I'm thinking, as I said, 2025 Ti, because that's the year I'm making these, and it's a 250 Ti clone. Okay guys, and the time has come. I'm gonna go into paint. The speakers here in the paint booth. All the cabinet work is done. Hopefully I did enough and the paint will go on nice. To some of your dismay, I'm gonna be using this easy liner. I know a lot of people have said do it a gloss black, do it satin black, and to be honest, these cabinets, they have some imperfections, and I don't really want to spend 20 hours filling every little seam. And yeah, I've painted stuff before in this, and it ends up looking pretty nice. I don't mind a bit of a textured look. It's not the super thick, you know, granulary style liner, but it's what I'm going for. In the end of the day, they're my speakers, and I'm gonna be happy with it because I know what this looks like. I've done it before. So I'm gonna get suited up and start painting. All right guys, sorry for the noise, we're in the booth. But that is the last coat of paint. It's just drying. Might look a little streaky in this lighting, but that's just because it's still a bit wet. It's drying faster in some spots. But if I go in closer, you can see quite an even coat. As you can see, it is a bit textured, but it's not like super gritty bed liner. It's a very fine texture. And this paint just really fills any imperfections. And I think it looks really good. I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out. So now that paint's done, we're gonna let this dry over the weekend. And then come next week, install the crossover, put all the insulation and the drivers in, and we got our speakers. Other than, yeah, I still got to finish the metal plate, a few other little things, but they're almost done. It's very exciting. All right guys, and we're back at the shop. Paint's dried over the weekend. Finish actually turned out pretty nice considering it's single stage paint. Went on pretty good. Took about 4 kits of paint. It was about $120 in paint, all said and done. Then I hit it with a satin clear coat just to give it a bit more shine. So right now what I'm doing is getting the crossover ready. So I just cut these little standoffs. I'm just gonna double side tape them on to put them in place. Then I got some hot glue heating up so I can glue around, get them more permanently attached. So I'm not just gluing the whole board straight to the speaker cabinet. And yeah, I'll update you when I've done that. All right, so I just got the binding posts installed again. So this is gonna be the main binding post for the speaker going to the crossover. And then this one will be for the super tweeter, so I can jump it if I want the super tweeter or not. I can basically just unhook it at any time. The super tweeter is also gonna have a toggle switch for on and off, but I just thought, you know, I can basically just have a hard wire connection that I can disconnect at any point, take it right out of the line. So that's hooked up, and now I'm going to install the ports. So I have the port tube here. So I'm just going to get those glued in place, and that's what I'm going to do right now. All right, now the ports are in place. The way I did that was I used hot glue just to get it set in a spot. And then I went around with this stuff called Silpoxy, which is a silicone glue. I don't know what it's made out of, but it definitely Just smells like caulking silicone, but it's a bit more of an adhesive. It has more adhesive properties. So I just went around the port and sealed that off with that. And that should prevent any air leaking out beside the port, but also help adhere it in place with the hot glue. So now the port's installed, I can start getting insulation, wires ran, the crossover put in, and that's what's coming up next. All right guys, so got the crossover put in. I just finished wiring the wires. Now I just got to wire the super tweeter and then get the insulation put in and repeat the process on this side. Looking pretty good though. All the negative hookups there. There's all the positives. Yeah, going pretty swell. All right guys, so all the wires are ran. Got the tweeters put in and the super tweeters put in. There's a little toggle switch to turn that on and off. I'm just about to start putting the insulation in. The way I'm going to do that is I got insulation cut to fit, but I have some 3M Super 77, which is spray adhesive. So I'll spray a little bit on one of the sides of the insulation, and then I'll spray the back of that and then stick it to it so then it won't move around and cause any issues. So that's what I'm gonna get to right now. All right, so as you can see, got the insulation all in there, glued into place. Now I have to move on to the next one and do the same thing. All right guys, that's both cabinets fully wired and insulated. Already got 2 drivers in each. Now I'm going to carry these upstairs before I put the woofer and the mids in, because it'll be a lot lighter. And then once I get it upstairs, I'll finish putting the drivers in and it should be good to go. Right now that I'm installing the drivers, I'm putting this stuff on. It's like a sticky back, kind of like a rubber gasket tape. So when I tighten the screws down, it'll kind of glue it to the cabinet essentially, like a non-permanent bond, but make it so there's no air escaping through the sides, and it's more of an airtight seal. So I got to do that to all the drivers. Then I got to install them, and then we're good. And that is our mid-range. This is 704G JBL. There's our woofer, the 2225H. Yeah, I'll update you guys when I'm done. All right guys, back at the shop next day, working on the metal plates that go below the super tweeter. So here's my template that I cut. The super tweeter nuzzles right in there. And I just got the holes marked out, so then I have to transfer those marks onto the aluminum piece, which I bought some aluminum at Metal Supermarket. Got it cut out. I just beveled the edges and gave it a quick polish with some steel wool. I've already marked the other one, and with a punch marked out the holes. So I just got to take that to the drill press, drill out the holes, and then drill out. I got to figure out where I'm going to put. It's either going to be a toggle switch or a potentiometer for the super tweeter. Right now it's a toggle switch, but I think I'm going to change it to a potentiometer. I want to be able to control the volume on that super tweeter. The super tweeter really does enhance the sound, but it's a bit too forward at the moment and a little bit harsh. And I want to just dial it back a bit. So I know I could put a different capacitor in line and dull it down that way, but it does sound really good the way it is. It's just a bit too harsh. So I'm thinking if I can tame it down with the potentiometer, put a potentiometer right there and then engrave the name of the speaker, which at the moment, and I think final, it's going to be 2025 Ti. That's how we're going to go with it. All right, guys, so I've got the aluminum plates finished. I got a potentiometer on there, so I decided to go with a pot instead of a toggle switch so I can control the tweeter volume. So that's how it looks before I put any engraving or emblems on there. So I just got to bolt that one on. I've already got this one finished. As you can see, that's the way it looks. I think it looks pretty sharp. And it'll look much better once I got, you know, some engraving and the nameplate and whatnot. But you know what? Not too bad. I'm liking it. Let me know what you guys think down below. Look cool or no, or what do you think? All right, guys. Well, I did it. The 250 Ti's are done. And it's been a long time, about 100 hours of work or so. Lots and lots of planning. Decent amount of money. I got them done for about 1,200 Canadian, all said and done, which is not bad considering the real ones are about $5,000. The cheapest you'll ever find them is $3,000, and you'll be lucky to find them for $3,000. So overall, I'm really happy and feeling good about it. So without further ado, here are the 250 Ti's. And there they are. So yeah, these are the what I call the 2025 Ti's. All said and done and finished. Painted them with a black texture coat paint. And if you've been following me along on this journey, you know I sculpted that. It's a piece of wood with an epoxy sculpt to have that 250 Ti look. Very similar drivers to the 250 Ti. It's their Ti titanium dome tweeter. Very similar mid-range. The only thing that's a little bit different is the woofer. It's a 2224 or 2225. I think a 2225, yeah, 2225H. And the real one's an LE14. So this is actually a 15 instead of a 14-inch woofer, but still JBL. And then I've added a super tweeter, which you can turn on or off just with that potentiometer there. For listening to these loud, I have the super tweeter off because this tweeter puts in more than enough work once it gets some juice going to it. But if I'm doing some easy listening and it's very low and listening to maybe some like blues or country, I definitely turn that on, and it makes the sound a little bit more crisp, a little bit more fun. But when the music's very loud, it's just too shrill. And also, not just if it's too loud, but if you're listening to metal or anything where there's just like lots and lots of noise, it just adds a bit too much. But in certain situations, it actually adds to it. So that's why I have the little potentiometer I put on there, so you can dial it in or turn it completely off. So yeah, that's the drivers. And in the back, I don't know if you can see it in the light. So it's not biampable. I do have two sets of binding posts and they're jumped. So that top set of binding posts, all that is for the super tweeter. So that just connects straight to the super tweeter. So it can actually, if I take those jumper wires out, I can actually fully disconnect the super tweeter if I want. And the reason I didn't make these biampable, I know a lot of people are probably wondering why. I mean, it's a 4.5 way speaker, what have you, with the super tweeter. Well, these originally were designed to come with a subwoofer. Because of the constraint of the size of the box, the woofer, in my case a 15-inch woofer, the originals, as I said, are the LE14, so 14, weren't super low, deep hitting because of the size of the cavity in the box. So it was originally designed to come with a subwoofer. So if you watched my last video, you would have heard that I said I am going to make the subwoofer. I'll put a picture of the original 250 Ti speakers with the subwoofer there. So yeah, as you can see, they had a sub, and that's an 18-inch JBL sub. Well, I ended up getting one. Not the original, of course, but I got an 18-inch JBL subwoofer. Get in focus here. There we go. Yeah, I picked this up. It was on Marketplace for $60. Me and a friend both messaged at the same time. My buddy ended up getting it, but I told him I'd trade him something for it, and we made a little deal. I sold him some Technics tweeters from the SB6000s and 7000s. I had a spare set. So yeah, this is going to be the second part of this build. Will be cleaning this woofer up, making it look a little bit nicer and match those guys over there. So yeah, that's kind of the situation right now. The speakers are done, and we're moving on to the subwoofer. I just wanted to say thanks so much for watching and tuning in and following the journey of this build. These have come a long way since the Franken speakers, so I'll put a picture of them up, how they looked when I got them. Yeah, quite the Franken speaker that I found in a customer and now a friend of mine's garage. They were just completely random. You could tell the guy built them to look like 250 Ti's, but he used all different kinds of drivers, CAF, Visonic, no-name brand woofer, a jumbled together crossover that was kind of a mess. And now I feel like they are what they're meant to be. I feel like the guy, when he built these cabinets, he was inspired by the 250 Ti's. I wish I knew, but he actually passed away, so no idea. But just everything about them said 250 Ti. So I'm really happy to have completed the build and, have this special speaker in my collection. I just wanted to say thanks to a few friends of mine. Thanks to Troy. If you watched the other episodes, you'd know he's the guy who designed and built the crossover for me. He did a fantastic job. If you ever need any crossover work, highly recommend him. If you're in the Vancouver, British Columbia area, I can get you set up with him. Thanks to my friend Tim. He does all the refoaming for me, and he refoamed the 15-inch woofers, so that helped. And last but not least, thank you to my friend Trevor. He actually was the one that I worked some trades with and got the L5 JBLs that were the donor speakers for the top 3 drivers, and also the friend who ended up picking up the subwoofer. So thanks to all you guys. You're a big help in all this, and I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and send some comments down. Let me know what you think about the speakers now that they're finished. Do you like them? Do you think I did a good job? Or whatever. Yeah. So stay tuned, because the next few episodes will probably be focused on this JBL subwoofer that I'm going to put some work in. All right.